night.
It's all disappeared.
Sally, a question before we get started. When is our next resiliency meeting?
That's a question I would be happy to ask you.
I don't know the answer.
I don't either.
I don't either.
Okay, we could have a quorum.
So I'm just gonna watch this. I don't know if there's any more people coming, but it'll show right on the top.
Calling the meeting to order at, what is that, 5:03?
5:01.
Okay, thank you, dear. So before we get into official business, I just wanted to let anyone know who hasn't heard that Henry's wife Maureen died on Saturday.
Oh, my,
Sorry,
So sorry.
yeah. I may, I'm not sure. Because we mostly got email. But yeah, we'll get hold of it and get it to people. Yeah. So. Then I guess we should get a note of who's here that's from the public for whatever reason. We have Wes Pratt, who is no longer an associate member, and is that Nancy Goslin?
Yes, yes.
And Irv, I saw Irv Curtis' name, is he on? And, oh, and Neil, who is an associate member and also chair of the Resilience Committee. Anyone else I missed?
I see a red mark beside Irv Curtis's name, so does that mean that he's actually not here?
It's muted.
Oh, I saw,
Oh, it's muted.
I thought I saw, no, it means that he's just now got his
So he,
video on.
Where he doesn't want to be seen.
Well, you know, you're in your pajamas or whatever.
okay, so I'm gonna mark him
Okay.
as here.
So, with that grim start, adjustments to the agenda. Well, and even before we do that, I'd like to introduce our guest.
Thank
Lauren Schwartzbaugh. She is chair of the Owl's Head Conservation Commission. And she's here to talk to us about a proposed program they have at the Ash Point School in Owl's Head, which has the students from pre-K through 5 from both Owl's Head and South Thomaston. And I'm Sandra Wallace, the chair.
Leslie Spear, a member.
The carrot.
Go, Warrior.
And
Catherine Lamb.
Good evening. Well, thank you for having me.
we're delighted to have you. So I would propose that we move, once we get through approving minutes and the usual trivia, we move the discussion with Lauren to the top. So that she doesn't have to sit through all our other stuff. I also have a new business item that Rachel Snow is interested in becoming a commission member. Rachel Snow.
Oh, good.
And Sally will talk a bit about her when we get to new business. Folks on Zoom, can you hear us okay?
Yes.
yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm right by the mic and just, you know, speak up if you can't hear some of the others of us.
No, I can hear you well now. Thank you.
All right. Any other adjustments to the agenda? Okay, moving on. Review and approval of prior meeting minutes. We have terrifically the 4 people we need present to approve the October 9 meeting minutes. October 9 has never been approved because never since then have the 4 people who were the only ones at that meeting all been at any other meeting. But here you are.
I
So
move to accept the minutes of October.
wait a minute, that is, the people qualified to do it are right on the agenda. Linda, Catherine, Leslie, and me. So, I'll second. Any discussion?
None.
All right, all in favor?
Hi, Catherine.
Okay, then we get to the. Wait a minute. November 13 minutes, and I have one more correction. I had suggested it, but I think we weren't on the same page, Linda. On page 2, 3, item old business item 4F.
So I didn't bring that minutes with me. That's
Oh, okay.
item 4.
So. This was mostly my report of what happened at the Community Resilience Committee meeting, but we're talking in our meeting about their meeting. So the sentence that says, there was a brief discussion during the meeting as to even how we should combine Conservation Commission and Resilience. It's ambiguous which meeting we're talking about, which is why I had said take out during and put at the STCRC meeting instead of during the meeting.
So I will correct that.
Okay, well,
So just during gets replaced by.
just during the is replaced by at the STCRC.
I see.
Right. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes as so amended?
Move to approve the minutes.
John, Leslie seconds. All in favor?
Hi.
Done. All right. So next on the agenda is the planetarium.
I'm honored to be here. Thank you. Yes, so kind of on the tail of the film screening that took place a couple weekends ago, The Dark Sky. I'm just curious, did anyone here attend that? What did you think? I wasn't.
That was great. It was really good.
Really well attended and awesome presentation.
Excellent. So they had a good showing.
Well, I only wish, talk about the ones that got away, if we had a sign up. Because the people who did attend, and it wasn't a huge crowd, but it was a pretty well filled, that meeting room at Camden Library. But if we'd only had a sign up sheet where people would put what town they were from and their email address, and they all got away.
Good points. Well, notes for next time.
Really?
So Northern Star Planetarium, who's headed up by John Meter, partners with the Dark Sky program, and that's how I found him. It was actually, there's an article about him and his mobile planetariums in one of the recent Down East magazine. So Conservation Commission wanted to reach out to him and see what kind of program we could set up with that point serves, you know, South Thompson, Owl's Head, and Spruce Head. So his little, he's got 2 sizes. The larger can fit up to 50 some odd children. So with the number of students at Ash Point, that would take 4 shows to kind of broaden, cover the spectrum of ages. And Sandra, you had mentioned, you know, why not specifically target the older kids? And the reason that we wanted to, you know, accommodate the entire student body was we had done that previously and only catered to the older students, and then a lot of, it didn't. It didn't sit
The younger
right.
one.
Had some unhappy kids and some unhappy parents.
Ah,
So that was kind of a guiding, that was a guide in how we were gonna try to do this next time. And then I reached out to you in the event conservation, I was looking at this as a conservation commission specifically sponsored events. Then Tripp, the principal, actually offered to fund it, but I like the idea of the conservation commission kind of leading this.
taking ownership.
Yes, especially kind of on the heels of the dark sky film that had just taken place. And maybe this can bring in some other programming that we can have leading into warmer weather. John also does a whole dark sky presentation. So I was thinking Beach Hill would be an amazing type of event, and then also a broader demographic. You can have Camden and Rockland and other residents, you know, part of that as well.
When you say beach hill, you mean up, you know, have
Yes,
it outside.
exactly. And then he actually has a large Celestron telescope that he brings to the events, and then other telescopes, and then he's got a laser pointer, and he's just a wealth of information. So he's got the stories behind different things, and so that's something that can come during further down the road. And then Sandra, to your point, you know, how to bring in also the grammar school and then Oceanside. So I got some dates, what he has available between now and, well, I say March and June. And I can absolutely reach out to both schools and see what their interest is in that. But I wanted to, this was all, you know, we do have him scheduled for Ash Point on February 25th. And we can see how that goes, but, so yeah, that's where we stand at the moment. I'm looking forward to meeting this gentleman in person, but he's very excited. If we want to bring in other area commissions, I will be part of the meeting tomorrow.
That's the
For the county.
countywide working group of conservation commissions.
So I'm not sure if that's the time to bring it up or not. I'll
Yeah,
feel
I
that out
think
as
it's
we
fine to
go.
bring it up to see if we'd all like to
Yeah.
expand this.
The program, it's $325 for 2 shows. And we have scheduled for 4 to cover the full, all the grades. So I know it puts the onus on us between 2 towns, because Sprucehead doesn't have, I'm thinking of just,
When you say Spruce Head,
Yeah.
you must mean, it's just this funny location because some of it's South Thomaston
right,
and
So if
some
you
of
go
it
on
is
that-
St. George.
on Ash Point, on their website, it says that they're serving those students also, not St. George. That's what I was getting a little confused
Well,
about.
then they would be just South Thomaston. It's just another way to say the South Thomaston part of Spruce Head is just South Thomaston.
Right,
Okay, in terms of.
well, then here we are.
School
These are the
School district. I
Is the
don't know if
Spruce
there's.
Head?
Spruce Head really
It's
is
That's
unorganized, I mean, actually.
It's
unorganized town.
That's the phrase I was looking for.
Because it's part of this town,
Yeah.
it's not an independent town. Now, whoever drew the lines, my guys,
Honestly, if we were to promote something with Oceanside, obviously, you know, it's a broader umbrella. We have more towns that we can. you know,
right,
help
so
to
Oceanside, I was talking about the middle school, which is located in Thomaston and serves South Thomaston and Owl's Head in Thomaston kids.
As
Well, there is
Rockland.
nothing in our, what?
Don't they serve Rockland also?
I
Oceanside?
don't think, no, Oceanside High School does.
Okay,
I don't think the Rockland middle school students go to Oceanside Middle School. We could check that, but I'm pretty sure.
well, at least.
I looked online and I did not say Rockland, and I would be surprised, because Rockland has had its separate program all the
Okay.
way from kindergarten up.
But at least working with Oceanside, that still brings Thomaston into. the
It
mix,
brings
which
in
would be
Thomaston,
super helpful.
exactly.
Um,
And I think it's a great idea to bring it up tomorrow night because it doesn't bring in St. George. And it doesn't bring in Camden and Rockford. So we could talk about having some kind of program planning that was really, followed the kids through the grades and really made them more knowledgeable. You know, some of the programming that Mr. Meter has in mind is entertaining, but not necessarily educational in my view.
Okay.
And that's part of what, and I can certainly understand if you're dealing with pre-kindergarten, that's what you're gonna do. But that's, if we're trying to, as a conservation commission, build up a body of citizens who are really aware of our place in the universe, and
What part of the program did you find entertaining versus educational?
I'd have to go back to,
Because I thought the whole thing to me seemed pretty, aimed at kids, but educational.
So he has this programming broken down into what age groups he's catering to. So yeah, the more entertaining is certainly the younger kids, and then there's a couple that we selected for the 4th and 5th graders, which are largely more educational, but there's a whole explanation actually on how, which I'll send to you on his website, explaining the context or the content of each of those presentations. But I'm in agreement with you. I mean, it's the entertainment side is important, Denver wise, but
it can just be more meat to it, the older the kids are. And one question I had is the groupings, so that you have, I think 2nd and 4th together and 3rd and 5th together, something like that.
so Ben Tripp, the principal, actually organized.
Oh, I guess, there's one grade that's alone, and that's probably because it's got a lot of kids in it.
So those selections, I had some suggestions on the presentations, just to have cover a broader spectrum of the ages, and then Ben selected which one or how to organize them in terms of when did you get those students together.
Ow.
Pre-K and first, grade 4 alone, 3 and 5, and K and 2. Right.
I mean,
That's-
Sandra, I looked at it and I thought it was very well done, and certainly the program seemed to be age appropriate. If it's a very young kid, I mean, they learn by having fun, that's the way you do it. It has to have an entertaining component. As for the purpose of it, I think it fulfills our mission, helping with education and making young people more aware of our environment, including the sky. As to, the number of presentation and how to organize them, I would leave that up to the teachers. They certainly know what they have to teach and, how the message is delivered best. So I'm not sure, we should get into details like that. It's like, first of all, are we interested in sponsoring the program or not? And, my vote would be obviously yes. And then, at which level, how many conservation commissions are going to participate, and can the cost be covered? And I would leave it at that. And let the teachers, decide what they want to show to whom.
Couple thoughts. First of all, it's probably may very well be kind of late in this school year, maybe not, to try and expand very much. I have no idea if Thomaston has much budget at all. That's all interesting questions to bring up tomorrow. But the other thing is, because when we worked out our budget for this year, we were actually thinking that there would be a cost to us to put on dark sky, and that we need to contribute to that. And I need to double check, but I'm pretty sure that turned out to be free, which is miraculous.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm a little surprised that not even the rental of the film. So I need to be sure that we don't have an obligation there for some contribution. And there's also the other issue that if we just look at this Ash Point School proposal, we would wipe out our entire education budget and still not pay half of the cost.
And just to preface that, I generally wouldn't, ask for money after we've already committed to a thing. Like, we were committed to figuring this out regardless if it was us standing
I got
alone
that,
or not.
yeah, expected that.
And I was very appreciative to, the principal to offer it as well, but I wanted this, we wanted this to be specific Conservation Commission. And I think this reciprocal aspect of that is also brings attention to what the towns are doing individually and through their conservation commissions and how they're, it's the level of outreach as well. So I feel it's a kind of a multi-pronged benefit. So please don't feel obligated. I didn't mean to put you.
No, well,
I just
no, that's for
wanted
discussion
to
of what we all decide.
engage whoever was willing and are interested in being a part of that.
Well, I mean, that's for the folks here tonight to decide, and if you're in favor. As I said, we need to be sure we don't already have an obligation to pay part of the cost of the Dark Sky program. And then it's up to you, really, if you're all in favor of supporting it, that'll be where our education budget goes this year. John?
Yeah, I'm certainly in favor of supporting it, but I was a little confused as to, at the beginning, as to the actual cost. Was it 350 for 2 shows and you're doing 4? So it's going to be double that, or we don't?
The total is $690, so it's
Okay.
$325 for 2 shows. And then there's a $40 transport for his distance that he's traveling, so the total at the end of the day is $690. And
665 or something like that.
it's with the travel, it's a $40 with.
No, with the travel.
So that's,
But
690.
anyway.
so that would be $345, but again, and you don't even have to decide now, I just wanted this opportunity to let
Well,
you
I mean,
answer
if we
questions.
want to support it, we can pay as much as we can, and that would be a help
Sure.
in any case. But we need to take a moment to think if there's anything else that we would want to do this year that would cost money.
Have we used the education budget in previous years for anything?
I'm not sure it was, the budget was laid out that way, but I think we managed to use all our money each year. And I'm certainly going forward, I think we need to start asking for more. I mean, for education and for the forest preserve and for water quality monitoring and.
I looked at the program with the.
I'm sorry, you gotta speak up louder.
I looked at the program with the big, yurt or whatever, and I thought it looked great, like entertaining and educational, that's.
I'm hoping to see it in person myself. You actually crawl into this thing and it's so universe.
Yeah, so where do you put it? It won't
In the
fit in a classroom.
Auditorium, they have a
Yeah.
huge auditorium there.
I've seen some, when I was a teacher for many years, and I've seen something similar to that.
You can put a few.
Do they have them then?
We had something very similar to that, and they set up in the auditorium.
Yeah, like a inflatable
Inflatable
planetarium.
planetarium.
Exactly.
Wow.
They look great.
Oh,
Yeah.
really. It's just whetting their appetite, at a young age, you're not gonna remember every little thing you say, but.
And then it's an experiential
Oh, yeah.
thing, I think is important beyond the
Well,
textbook.
Can I make a motion that,
I'm hearing 4 strong votes for it. Do you wanna make a motion?
make a motion that given, if we have the money, that we support this under, under Conservation Commission?
Okay. Second?
I second.
We got 2 seconds. We have 3 seconds. Further discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Well,
There we
thank
go.
you. Thank you.
And
Yeah,
we'll
looking
hear
at
more
this was a
tomorrow night.
very symbiotic thing, so I appreciate the support and we'll see you tomorrow. Is there a physical location for this meeting, do you know?
Tomorrow is all in Zoom,
It's all Zoom, just all Zoom, okay.
which is good because people aren't happy coming out at night from the distances.
Sure,
I mean,
I
it's all the way from St. George to Camden. And they were much happier. We had the first 2 meetings live, and then we went to Zoom and everybody was much happier.
Well, as long as you have better attendance, and that's what's important.
Absolutely.
And are you chairing that? Or how, who is the chair for that group?
I organize it. There is no chair. It's just but if I didn't do it, it wouldn't happen.
Got it. Well, thank you in advance.
You're welcome and look forward to seeing you again.
Does anyone, I'm just curious, do you have any questions for me?
No,
From the Owl's Head
Thank you for coming.
neighbors? Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Pleasure to meet you.
You as well.
Bye.
Okay, what time is it? All right. It looks like a long agenda, but I think we can power through most of it. Let me just get my cursor stuff in order. Next is update on South Thomaston Forest Preserve. Actually, I'll leave it right there. It might reach more of you. And there isn't much to update except at our last meeting, we reported that we're going to need to give an easement to the preserve, which is giving ourselves an easement. But the point is that if we're only asking for title insurance on that property, then if you look at that property alone, it's landlocked. So we have to unlandlock it. So I don't have the date, but I got on the select board's agenda to get approval to go ahead and hire the surveyor to survey the easements. We have their approval to do that. I also mentioned that the attorney had recommended that we deed to ourselves the 5 parcels as a single parcel. And I brought that up. A decision wasn't made, but Sue Snow had some concern about it, which mystified me, but somebody suggested that she was under the impression that we were talking about putting together the 5 parcels with the town lot, which we do not want to go there, certainly not at this point. So I need to have a conversation with her and figure out what her concern is and whether we can allay it before we could go ahead and do that. But in the meantime, we now have an appointment to meet with the surveyor this coming Monday to lay out what we need him to do. And presumably he will get on it, weather permitting, and we can move forward. Any questions? None? Good. That's it. The only update on water quality monitoring is that I talked to Theo, who is in Rhode Island at the moment, and for however long she can manage to stay with her daughter and grandkids. But I outlined for her what kind of a report I need. We're going to need it for the annual report, which ridiculously is due in February. So I've taken the view that our year runs from February to February, because that's all we're able to report on every year. Anyway, she assures me that she will be able to produce that in time. And I welcome any input on specific details that we'd like that report to include. I'll send around a draft of what I want to ask for and just see if I'm missing something. On the Dark Sky program, Linda and I attended. I think we were the only ones from South, no, and Catherine attended, right? So
Yes.
Catherine, would you like to report a bit on how it went?
Well, no, I think it was a very good program. As you said, the room at the Camden Library was packed essentially, but it attracted people from several towns. And the movie was informative. The speaker was certainly enthusiastic and answered all questions. And to me, I mean, at least, you know, it seems unbelievable that some people can answer a question asking whether they have ever seen the Milky Way, and that the answer is no. I mean, to me, that's terrible, especially in this area. And I mean, there was, you know, very good information overall. And I was also a bit surprised to find out that the only dark sky large swaths of land was actually at Katahdin, and for the whole Northeast, I mean, this is pretty much the only area left where you can enjoy very dark skies and therefore have, you know, a really good exploration of the sky. So I had no clue we had such light pollution, you know, that it was so widespread.
I remember being struck by the statistic that came by a couple times in different contexts that 80% of the world's population lives somewhere where they cannot see the night sky. That there is so much light pollution. That was stunning to me.
Yeah, well, the cities certainly, but even around us, I mean, you know, I don't know. It seems, I can't believe it.
Truly.
Mm.
So anyway, it was a great program. I think that's a program that would be well worth showing to high school students at least.
Yeah,
Uh,
it would be very accessible.
I think it would be accessible and exciting and motivating. But we don't really have much connection with Rockland, where most of the kids right now go to high school, although there's talk about moving them even further away. It's another thing we could try to remedy. So, next item is the Community Resilience Committee's proposal, a joint proposal with St. George to for a grant to support development of a shared climate action plan. They have asked us for a letter of support, and I shared a draft with you folks. I don't know how many of you had time to read it, but I need approval tonight so that their deadline is fast approaching. So I brought extra copies if need be, and I can give you a few minutes if you haven't read it.
I would like to, if you haven't.
No.
Okay,
I'd like
let me just,
I read it, it's a while ago. You're asking what of this meeting?
that we support their grant proposal. Catherine, have you? You have
I read
online?
it. I read it. I
Okay.
got it. I read it.
All right. Sally, you got it too.
Yeah, I read it.
Oh, good.
So let me try to summarize. So, and obviously, you know,
I have
correct
read
me if I'm wrong. And so the grant would be to pay for the services of a professional that would lead a survey or would lead an exploration of the problems our area faces. I agree that since South Thomaston and St. George face the same issues, therefore it makes total sense to work together.
Mhm.
That's a given.
Mhm.
And so, you know, the output of that grant will essentially be hiring somebody to produce a report. Is that it?
No,
Yes,
no.
Neil's on, and he can explain.
Right. So,
Thank you.
and that's one of the reasons why we kind of shifted from this terminology, because it was in the end, it really wasn't about hiring a person. It was about a project. So, part of that grant will pay for the coordinator of that, but other parts of that grant are about how we get resources in for data, what we can get contributed, what we have to pay for, things like GMRI. And when I say we, what St. George has to do, because St. George is the applicant. We're joining in support, and we'll have a memorandum of understanding, but St. George is really, you know, the applicant in this. So they would do all the managing and hiring, etc. So so it's more than just funding a position, it's to fund somebody to coordinate and also start gaining the resources that we need. And there's a budget in there at the bottom of that project.
Okay, so the question becomes the resources we need, but understanding that those resources will be applied to South Thomaston as well as St. George.
Correct. So the climate action plan is both all encompassing of our region, you know, if we say that the neck, right? But also specifying what each town may have different challenges with. So it's a overall plan, but it also takes into account some of the unique aspects that might be existing for both towns in that picture.
Oh, thank you. No, I didn't.
So, I mean, St. George will be administering it, but, you know, I assume people from South Thomaston will be at the table to discuss things all along. Yeah.
Right. So, and also part of, like, in terms of funding the resources, we're thinking of things, I don't know, this will be the actual application, but something like what we call strategic doing workshops, which, you know, we've got to reach out to the community. We've got a lot of community engagement piece in this, in addition to what you would look at as their professional scientific resources in addition that have to come along. So there's and part of, as a member of the main resilience community partnership, we have to have a very strong community engagement piece. It's required in our reporting.
Could I
So we gotta
follow up on that? One thing I want to be sure of is that the community engagement is not just every once in a while you'll have an informational meeting, or you'll invite people to show up on Saturday morning at the library, but that community components like the Conservation Commission will have a seat at the table, be in a position to discuss various aspects of this project as it moves forward.
I think it would be a failure of the project if it didn't do that. So, if you look at the proposal, it's looking at formal resources come in and do that work. So to organize workshops. So, the invitation list is going to be up and down the neck, and it may be beyond, you know, because we have some sort of perhaps some infrastructure, you know, connections with like Thomaston and Rockland, etc. So it will, I imagine the tentacles will go fairly wide.
Okay. At this point, there is no disbursement from South Thomaston toward that project? No.
None.
So there is no risk at this point.
There's there's no requirement, and even the MOU, which I'm gonna be on the select board after this meeting, um, uh, uh, doesn't actually have to sign that MOU until we actually get a grant. So if we get a grant, then there has to be an MOU in place. So, but we'd like to have it. You know, this would be nice, right, to kind of go in with the application along with the support letters that also St. South Thomaston has said, yeah, you know, we're on board with this.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I am. I think it's a great, you know, if you're going to involve the research institutes from Maine and so forth, I mean, we have only, you know, good things to gain. So knowledge, I mean, we have, you know, among us in South Thomaston, there are some very good scientists, you know, that do research on the ocean. I mean, you know, Wes being one of them, but also,
Right.
you know, in Sprucehead, you know, you're one of your neighbors, Sally, you know, it's also very much, so it will be interesting. And if we can bring more people from South Thomaston, you know, interested in the issue, that's great.
And to that, and back to Sandra's point about the inclusion piece is, I think this is about really formalizing, you know, a push into that resilience. You know, as a committee, you know, we can, you know, keep meeting, we can do little, you know, do some things, and I think be a catalyst for some things, but about really moving the needle, really formally putting ourselves in an advanced position on this climate issue, rather than reacting or behind it. Needs resources addressing it full part and full time. This will be a part-time position for sure. But I just say we wouldn't make I feel like this is a really good step forward for us to do, to really make something happen, something significant. Because the thing I've said before, and just to finish off the thought, is I think of the climate action plan. You know, when you think about plans, sometimes they just get shelved, etc. I think of this as saying, this puts us in a position like a business, where if we walk into a bank and we say, look, we want a loan, they want a business plan. And if we're going to go out to some big, you know, we will probably find that there are some big things ahead necessary. We'll have a plan, and we'll look really good in place to kind of go to these other resources to say, we need help, and here's our plan.
Questions answered, folks?
I think there's a lot of mutual.
You're so soft-spoken.
I'm sorry. I think there's a lot of, we have a lot in common as far as our mutual interests go. And I can't see why we would not support this venture.
Right, no,
I think your
I think it's
letter,
really
Sandra,
important
Sandra is very good. I mean, you wrote of our common interest indeed, and the things we have to face and learn. And, you know, I like the part about, you know, identifying the issues and certainly defining priorities. I mean, we can't tackle everything at once. And, you know, that's what the climate action plan will be about, you know, identifying, you know, what can be done first, what should be done first, you know, and so forth. I mean, where it would be interesting is for some odd reason, you know, South Thomaston, you know, urgent need doesn't match with St. George urgent need, you know, and then that would become, you know, a subject of discussion, you know, but, you know, there are a lot of things that have not been determined, but, you know, we're just at the front door, like, yes, we need to work together on this. I think there is no doubt about it.
And there's some advantages in the fact that St. George has been moving quite far ahead on certain things on this. So we're riding on some good coattails there. particularly the work they've done with GMRI and mapping out what's happening over the next 50 years. They've already started educating kids in the schools about that, which is, I love what you were talking about earlier. So I think there's, done right, there's a lot of goodness to come.
And actually, what you're mentioning is another thing for the schools. We were talking about dark skies, but another area of education is certainly anything dealing with the waters and, the Gulf of Maine, Research Institute work, if they do presentations and, we may want to think of facilitating that, with the schools. So.
Well, and also what the warming planet is doing to life cycles.
Yeah.
Plants and wildlife and humans.
But there's also, I think, I forget who was with us when Robert Van Riper, who was the coastal habitat restoration specialist, he was educating fishermen and actually the big damage that our culvert's doing to most of the commercial fishing.
Oh.
So this is, in terms of the climate change, but there's also things that how we're responding to the climate change, or how, not even to climate change, how we're responding to our own needs, how that is creating downstream. 75% of what I learned, 75% of commercial fish depend on resources in those channels above the culvert, and we narrow it. So tons of things to learn. The climate action plan will be the tip of the iceberg, but if you don't have a plan, anywhere will do, right?
Okay, I move we agree, we vote to accept Sandra's letter of support and forward that to the select board or wherever it has to go.
Second that.
Any discussion? Thank you for the title.
It's very well written.
All good?
Sandra, very well written.
All right, great. Thanks, guys.
All right,
All
thank
right,
you.
moving on.
Can we vote?
I think we should vote, yes. All in favor?
Hi.
Catherine, you have to say so. There's some
I
rule if you're on
I said
Zoom.
hi.
Good. Okay,
All right. Before you move, Sandra, if you, I've got a quick supper before the next meeting, so if you don't mind, I'm just going to bounce out. I just wanted to make sure I was here to
oh,
answer
absolutely.
questions.
We're moving on to other stuff.
Yeah, plotting thought was love what we talked about in the beginning, and two, definitely will make much better efforts to kind of syncopate with the work that we're doing. So
I hope you meant synchronize.
synchronize, synergy, synchronous energy.
Syncopate is something else.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone. All right.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you for coming and enlightening us. Okay. Update on Maine Coast Seafood. There isn't any.
No,
However, it is on the select board agenda for the meeting coming up right after this. So, and it says they've got an update, which will be interesting to
There's
hear.
quite a bit to go. I mean,
Oh,
they've got
yeah?
the
Oh,
biggest-
you've got the
No.
insider
No,
view?
I don't. I just think there's more to go, more to be cleaned up than just because by going by.
Yeah. Okay. And then update on Wilson Quarry, land use and planning board ordinances, bylaws, etc. I noticed Irv is here. I expect this is the one he's interested in most. I think what those of us who've been involved with this, learned through this process, is that our land use ordinance in particular is, to quote the town attorney, woefully inadequate. It is, when you get to talking about industrial uses particularly, resource extraction rather than construction, it is vestigial. There's a line here and a line there. And some of the general rules apply to everything. So we are going to be starting a process, and Irv, we would like to talk to you about looking into what needs to be expanded, improved, tightened up about the land use ordinance. Also, it seems that the procedural rules laid out between the planning board ordinance and the land use ordinance for how one goes about seeking a permit, when you have to seek a permit, who do you go to, what's the process, that is nowhere near clear enough. When I asked Terry, well, what was the process on the Wilson Quarry? She said, well, I think they were viewing it as an amendment to the permit that Mr. Wilson already had. And I said, but where in the ordinances does it talk about when you need to get an amendment and what's the process for doing it? She said, well, I don't think there's anything in there about that, etc. So really, we have a bit of a Swiss cheese problem. And actually, my own view is that Mr. Wilson's application for a quarry in 5 acres was a blessing in disguise, because he was not proposing to, he did not have the land to do it, and he was not proposing to have a quarry that went on for half a mile. But if he was proposing such a thing, I'm not sure we had any way to stop that either. So it is high time to look at models of other towns that have better ordinances and see what improvements can be made in ours. So that's really the update, is where this whole process has led us. And Irv, since you're on, do you have any thoughts?
You're muted.
Oh, I think you're muted.
How about now? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, very good. Yeah, I heard all that. Of course, these type of projects, the town, we have an ordinance that either allows or disallows a business, any business. And this particular business is the state has control over how he operates his business on the quarry. That's totally up to them. So we don't have we can only say it's allowed use or not allowed use. And on any project like that. So he has to go through his DEP approval. He just goes through his DEP application, his state procedures. They come inspect. If they want to inspect, sometimes they don't. So that's,
They don't in this case.
they don't. Well, they can though, but I mean, they don't. So the only thing we can do is either it's an allowed use or non-allowed use. And if he meets all the criteria from the state or from the DEP, or he follows all the regulations, then it's an allowed use.
Now, I understand that that's how it is under the ordinances as written now. But I gather from
I don't think the
experts that we're hearing
the
from
town-
that
the
it
town-
could be
I don't think the
tougher.
towns can supersede the state. So if the state allows it, then we can't not allow it.
Well, we still,
That's going to be the question right there.
I don't think it works this way. I think the state will look at it, assuming that the town allows it, and the state is gonna make sure it's done properly. But there are plenty of towns around us who have restriction on such activities, so there is no reason.
We don't have that here.
Well,
don't have-
that's the whole
that's what
point of
we
this
are-
discussion.
that is what we are proposing to do, is give a very close look at our ordinances compared to other towns' ordinances to see what we might be able to do to ensure that things
That's
are
fine.
done and
That's
not.
good.
That's the plan, and we will want to be consulting with you as we go forward on that project.
Okay. But like I say, I can only work within the parameters that I'm allowed by the bylaws of the town, the planning
No, we
board.
fully, absolutely,
And
we
that's
fully
it.
understand that.
Okay,
And
What we want to do is look at whether those could be improved.
I think what we're saying, Irv, is just we want to change those parameters, or at least make those parameters more detailed. You know, if that's a possibility.
Well, as a town, we can do that.
I'm
Right.
not sure about that. I'm not sure that if the state already has rules, then we want to make more rules to supersede the state rules. More
Well-
stricter,
It's going to be
Stricter-
a learning
stricter
experience for all of us.
okay,
Well, ultimately, it will have to be voted by the town, any change that could happen to the ordinance. So then people can decide, and that's how they vote, whether they believe this is necessary or not. And then, the majority will win.
I can understand that. But I don't know if we're even in that position.
Well, not yet, no. No, we are at the beginning
You're starting.
point of thinking about how to start
Well,
a project.
I don't know if we can change that. I'm saying,
We'll
because
find
before I
out.
was on the planning board or chairman of the planning board, the bylaws, because had to be redone to mitigate, to make the process more involved with the townspeople. So that's kind of been done, but prior to that, there was really nothing as far as like public hearings or public input on these projects for years. I don't think there was a public hearing on a project before I became chairman of the planning board or was on the planning board, put it that way. I've been on, several years now, but
And what you did was great, but it's like everything else, we live in an atmosphere of continuous improvement. And
I'm just wondering how you can if the state has their rules and their parameters, how the town can make them more stringent. And that's what we'd have to do if you want to. That's what you're looking to really do, to minimize this.
Irv, we're not going to
Actually-
resolve this tonight.
No, I'm just saying that's all. You got the other thing as far as I really like to speak to Mr. Wilson's project because I usually do it in public at the planning board, but you asked about expansion or the 5 acres and so forth like that. He would have to come, or any business that wants to change their operation has to come back to the planning board to get permission to do that. So he did, so that would be, and when they do that, then the whole application can get renewed. You can make different restrictions or different things can come into it.
But as the rules stand now, wouldn't you approve it again?
Would we prove it again? It would be dependent on what he wants to do, what the state allows him to do,
And what's on the book for the town? So for instance, if he were to come back and say, well, I'm going to blast every month, currently there is nothing on the books that say it cannot do that. And
if he got approval for it, he could do it, but he hasn't got approval for that. He's got approval for twice a year. So
From the state?
he would have to come back to the town for that too.
But that's what I'm saying. Right now, you say you follow the book, and right now the book said, you have nothing to say he cannot blast 12 times a year. So
Yes, we do. It's in his performance standards.
right now,
in
you
that
said
particular
he's
project.
allowed for twice a year. If he comes back and say, I'd like to blast more, what are you
Then
going to say? You're going to
Well, you have
say,
to, the whole application would be up for, you can go through the whole thing, is what I'm saying.
I know.
So if you just want, you can do a little piece, or you can subject to be completely reviewed,
Okay.
the whole thing from the.
We're done. We're just going to start, we're doing the
I'm
research.
just saying, that's
This
a process.
We
wanna
can't,
know.
Irv, I don't think we can take this any farther tonight.
Okay,
and-
I'm just here to tell you what I know. That's all. I'm not saying.
Yes, okay.
I'm not in favor
And thank you.
or opposed to any project in town. You know what I mean? I don't take sides that way. You know what I mean? I just follow the ordinances that come in
Right.
and then what we have in writing, and that's it. But there was a little question about could he get more than 5 acres? Well, yes, he can come back and ask for more than 5 acres. Can he blast more? Yeah, he can come back and ask for. Will it get approved? That would be up to the planning board and, probably generate another public hearing, and more public input, and maybe not, maybe we wouldn't get approval for that.
Okay, I have to move on.
If you say you want to limit it to a certain amount of blasts per year in an ordinance, you don't have that yet.
We're not anywhere, we're at the beginning of wanting to see what we could do and what we should do
For any business,
For
not
any-
even just.
for any business or any activity. We're at the starting point of looking.
But do you understand that if they want to make a change to their operation, that they have to come back to the planning board and get approval, and then they are also subject to review the whole application? That's all I can, that's the only thing that we have.
Yes,
right
we
now.
do understand that, but we also understand that you can only measure them by what's in the ordinance.
So that the
Correct.
outcome might be the same, that you
So-
would approve it again.
What we want to look at is whether there could be more specific requirements in the ordinance.
Good.
That is a long process. We'll have to work with the ordinance review committee. We'll have to get town meeting approval if we propose any changes. We're just talking about this particular application brought to light the fact that there isn't much in our ordinances, and there's a lot less than in some other towns' ordinances. And that's what we want to look at.
Okay. That's good.
So, all right. Thank you for your input.
Make our,
All right. Come to planning board meetings. Love to have you.
Oh, just what I need, more meetings. But thank you. All right, last item is proposing to appoint Rachel Snow as the Conservation Commissioner. And Sally, could you please speak to that?
Yeah,
No,
I-
obviously.
Sally's the one who recommended her and who knows her, so.
well, we're not besties or anything. I mean, come on. But no, I've known her family, and I was one of the people that babysat for her and her siblings when I was a young teenager, which was a long, long, long time ago. But her brother John was our code enforcement officer for quite a while, and I talked to her at one of the meetings we were having in the room you're in right now. I can't remember which one it was. Probably about the library, and she seemed to be interested in things. And when we were talking about who we could speak to as a possible new member on the Conservation Commission, her name, she came right up in the top of my mind, and I spoke to her the other day. And I think she would be very good. She's sort of retired from her professional life, which I couldn't really put a title to what she did, but she's back in the home that they all lived in when they were small children on the Waterman Beach Road, and interested in doing her bit to make this town work as well as possible. And I think she'd be a great member.
She has to be appointed by the selectmen anyway, right?
What?
She has to be appointed by the selectmen.
Oh, yes, but we have to make a recommendation, and so,
I would be in favor to welcome Rachel.
all right, so I would like to propose.
She's a doer, I've not known her for
Oh,
very long.
okay, great.
But she has been a professional working for the UN and all over the world, and has not been shy of undertaking big projects. So she certainly knows how to roll up her sleeves. And, she communicates very well. and has been of help to various committees so far. And I think she would be an asset if she could join us. Yeah.
Great.
Mm.
So I'd like to make a motion that we recommend to the select board that they appoint Rachel Snow as a conservation commissioner. And I'll have to look up, but I'm pretty sure her term would be, she would be taking the vacancy for a term ending in 2027. But we don't have to specify that till I double check.
Okay, I'll second it.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor? Okay. I am without objection. I'm adjourning the meeting at 6:12 p.m.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Are you staying, Sandra, for the select board meeting?
I'm going home and I'm going to, I'll let them go through their special meeting on the cemetery and then I'll join on Zoom. What
Okay.
about you?
I don't know. I'm hungry. I'm gonna go eat dinner.
Oh, we
Bye-bye,
better- we're
everybody.
still recording.
Okay. How do I?
That's why.
Yeah.
Make it out.
Who's closing up the
I'm trying.
meeting?
The meeting is still recording here.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to close it. I'm trying to close it.
About what we do, what we do not.
That's just stop.
it.
That's hard. What?
No.
Stop with it. Go away. I hate that when you get these windows.
Just before COVID, they had gotten pretty big. This isn't gonna be quite as large. It's a good time.
Stop recording. That's not good.
Family and friends. See that before?
How are you, Ian?
How are you ladies?
Good. Good sign, but.
Your ordinance.
I think they're online. I've been studying Warren and I've seen it online.
Just, the one, I don't know how many ordinances there are, maybe the one specific to.
Okay.